Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 14 of High Street Sports. My name is Chris. This is John Ross. We had an exciting weekend of football, both in the college ranks and in the NFL. A lot of stuff to talk about, as you can probably see behind me. The biggest storyline we will get to here in a little bit. The Swifties have taken over the game of football. And whether or not anybody wants that to happen, it is here. John Ross, what's up, buddy? How you feeling about this week?
What's up, buddy? Yeah, great weekend last week, especially college football. The six-ranked matchups, they definitely lived up to the hype. NFL, another great Sunday, especially with Taylor Swift taking over pretty much the whole league. We're watching the song "You Belong with Me" play out in real time. She may not be the cheer captain, but she is in the bleachers, and we love to see it. You see Travis Kelce in the drop top cutlass, taking her out on the town after the night. Biggest winner of the weekend by far is Mr. Kelce. The Panthers have stopped pounding. I'm going to keep pounding. Let's get into it. Another week of football. Let's go.
You heard the man. He got everything. We'll get right going here with the college football top 25 rankings for week 5. As John Ross mentioned before, a pretty jam-packed week 4 in college football, capped off by a stunning win. The Buckeyes beat Notre Dame in South Bend, take care of business there. Nail biter, great game on both sides of the ball. Had everything you wanted to. A fabricated rivalry between an 86-year-old and Ryan Day, so there was a lot of storylines going on there. A big game, lived up to the hype. Got some newcomers here in the top 25. Checking in at number 25 is Fresno State. Checking in at 24 is Kansas. And checking in at 23 is Missouri. All three of those teams newcomers to the top 25 this week after not being ranked previous. So we'll get right into the matchups here, starting with the newly ranked number 25 Fresno State Bulldogs versus Nevada. Exciting times for Fresno State getting into the top 25. They were one of those teams on the fringe last week that received votes but did not get in. What do you have here about Fresno State versus Nevada?
It's Fresno State minus 24.5. Nevada, they're 0-3. Yeah, 0-3 or 0-4. Well, they haven't won a game regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Fresno State, they've got a pretty good quarterback right back there. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but they've typically got a pretty solid football program up there. It's not shocking to see them ranked over the years. But yeah, I'll take them in this one and take them to cover in that one. Don't know too much about either one, so I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, big line there. You said it was minus 22?
24.5.
Minus 24.5 for Fresno State. So big line there for the newly ranked Bulldogs. I will also take Fresno State in that matchup against Nevada. Moving on up, we are going to skip number 24, Kansas. We'll get to them in a little bit. Going to number 23, we have Missouri at Vanderbilt. Commodores, obviously, we all know that they are one of the best teams in the SEC annually. So what do you think about Missouri versus Vanderbilt?
Yes, Mizzou minus 13.5. They'll be playing in Nashville at Vandy. Their coach is trying his damnedest to make Vanderbilt relevant in the SEC. Will it happen? Who's to say? Probably not. Mizzou, a little bit shocked they weren't ranked last week, but they check in this week at 23. A couple weeks ago, won a big game at home against then number 15 Kansas State on an absolute missile of a game-winning field goal. So I think it was 60-plus yards. But yeah, I'll take Mizzou to keep it rolling in this one. They got a really good quarterback back there and a solid receiver. Luther, I know his first name. I can't think of his last name off the top of my head, but he's a really, really good receiver. I think he's had over 100 yards his past 3 games. But yeah, I'll take the Mizzou Tigers to keep it rolling in this one. I think they do cover it up.
Yeah, M-I-Z-Z-O-U playing really well over there. Eli Drinkowitz is a hell of a head coach and seems to have
what a last name.
I know. Eli Drinkowitz. What a name. He's got them playing well, so I don't see them slipping up here at Vanderbilt in a daunting matchup against a team who doesn't have their stadium finished. So we'll move on from that one and go up to number 22, Florida at Kentucky. It's a noon game in the SEC. What do you think about the Gators versus the Wildcats?
Yeah, it's Kentucky -1. Kentucky comes in 4-0. Florida comes in after seems like a little bit of a hangover last week after beating Tennessee the week before. It really struggled against a mediocre Charlotte team at home too. Kentucky, like I said, comes in this one 4-0. Haven't really played anybody of note yet, but Devin Leary, the transfer from NC State, he's doing a really good job there so far. But yeah, I'll take Kentucky in this one, being at home. And I think that bring the Gators back down to earth this week.
Yeah, it's a bit of a big one there. Kentucky, looks to move their way up in the rankings and hopefully get ranked with a big win against the ranked Florida team that comes in after, just like you said, kind of limping against a very under talented as far as the matchup goes team in Charlotte last week. Florida was dealing with some suspensions after that bonehead ending to the Tennessee game.
Oh, really?
So they were without
Okay. I didn't know
they were
that.
without some offensive linemen, but against the Charlotte team that really shouldn't matter if you're Florida. Obviously, much better team in that situation. However, take it for what it's worth. But I still not sold on Florida. So, this is going to be a tough one at Kentucky. I will go ahead, though, and probably side with Florida just because I don't really know a whole lot about Kentucky outside of Devin Leary. So I'll go with Florida. Hopefully they get those players back and win a big game on the road against an undefeated opponent in Kentucky. So should be a good one nonetheless in Kentucky. But we'll move on up the list. Number 21, Tennessee versus South Carolina. Tennessee is a team that is kind of reeling after that loss to Florida. Not a game that Tennessee and the Vols expected to lose versus a team in South Carolina that put up a fight against Georgia. Obviously, Spencer Rattler's one that you really don't know what you're going to get on a game in, game out basis. What do you think about the Vols versus the Cox?
Yeah, Tennessee got a big win last week. They beat UTSA, albeit without their quarterback, Frank Harris, but they took care of business at home. And South Carolina, I know they won last week. I can't remember who they played off the top of my head, but they come in 2-2. With the game being in Neyland, though, it's Tennessee minus 11.5. Spencer Rattler, he's playing pretty well this year, but no one else around him is really doing anything, especially his offensive line, especially the defense. So I'll take Bazooka Joe and the Vols in this one at home. I don't think they cover it. I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, I think it'll be sloppy. I really don't think this is going to be, a game that you're gonna put the film on for people to study, outside of these two teams. But in a game where I don't really trust either of the quarterbacks, I'll go with the better team as a whole on paper. I'll go with the Vols at home in that one. Neyland is a tough place to play, and it's a 7:30 game. So you got to think, there's going to be a lot of energy in that stadium. So probably going to be hard for South Carolina to navigate there. Moving on up the list, since we do have some ranked matchups here, we're skipping over some teams that we will get to shortly. So we'll go to number 14, Oklahoma versus Iowa State. Oklahoma is playing well, and they continue to win against an Iowa State team who is struggling. What do you think about the Sooners versus the Cyclones?
Yeah, Oklahoma looks really good, especially last week. Who did they play? Let's see. They played at Cincy last week, and Cincy kind of gave them a game being at home, but Oklahoma pulled it out. Their defense has been really, really good so far this year. Like we talked about, Brent Venables, he's a defensive guy, and he's starting to mold that unit how he would like it. And Dylan Gabriel, their quarterback, is playing really well too. And then it's minus 20 Oklahoma. Yeah, I'll take him in that and take him to cover that too. Iowa State, like you said, really struggling this year.
Yeah, I like the Sooners big in that one. They seem to be kind of finding their stride, and just like you mentioned, Brent Venables seems like he's getting his fingers on that defense the way that he wants to, and turning that into what he had at Clemson, at least in some respects. So, yeah, I look for the Sooners to dominate on defense in this one against the Iowa State offense, who has really struggled pretty much all year so far. So, I will take the Sooners big in that one as well.
Big week for them next week.
Yeah, big week.
So hopefully they don't get caught looking ahead.
Yeah. Yep. Moving on up the list here. Number 13, LSU at number 20, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, if it weren't for a couple of things that, didn't go their way, looked pretty good last week. LSU is another team that is really sort of building momentum. Brian Kelly kind of looks like he's got that team pointed back in the right direction. We'll see how that goes this week. 6:00 game on ESPN, big one for the Tigers. What do you think about LSU at Ole Miss?
Yeah, LSU was in a little bit of a closer game than they thought they'd be last week against Arkansas. Credit to Arkansas, KJ Jefferson, their quarterback. They played really well. Jaden Daniels probably had his worst half as LSU quarterback in the first half, but he really came on strong in the second half, had a great game, ended up with 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards receiving again, over 100 yards receiving for both Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. But yeah, in Ole Miss, they started out looking pretty like they could give Bama a run there, but offense just really couldn't do anything, especially the offensive line. Jackson Dart was really stymied by that Bama defense. You could tell was pretty fired up. But yeah, tough one this week for the Tigers, especially with given Ole Miss they're at home and the offensive firepower they have. I think the key is definitely for LSU to stop the run, slow down Quinshon Judkins, and get in the backfield of Jackson Dart. The secondary for LSU has to step up, though. It continues to be a weak point. Like, they look really good against Mississippi State. Then this past week against Arkansas, they did not look good at all. You really wonder if some of these younger guys who are on the bench, they need to start getting more burn. I can understand if an older guy, and this goes for just football in general, like I can understand if an older guy doesn't have as much talent, but if he's always where he needs to be, like I get it. But if you got veterans out there who aren't where they're supposed to be, give the younger guys a little bit of burn. But as far as who I'll take in this one, LSU -2.5. It'd be a tough one, tough environment to play in Oxford, but I'll take LSU to win that one, take them to cover.
Yeah, I mean, LSU, when you look at it from the standpoint of, just like you said, those veterans making mistakes on the defensive side of the ball, you got to have your best 11 out there. And if it's a freshman or, a sophomore, so be it. It's kind of hard to win football games when you're too worried about feelings. So hopefully, Brian Kelly can figure all that stuff out, the defensive coordinator over there. But yeah, like you said, man, Ole Miss ran into a really fired up Alabama defense last week that looked like they came out with a little bit of something to prove. And, like you mentioned last week, Nick Saban was going to, make it hard for a second former assistant of his to beat him in one season. So tough one for Ole Miss last week, and they look to rebound, and they're at home with an opportunity to pull off a big win against LSU, but I don't think it happens. I think LSU will find a way to win that game on the road in what should be an entertaining SEC matchup. 6:00 game on ESPN, so both of those fan bases will be nice and lubricated by the time that game kicks off. Should be a fun one.
I will say this about LSU. I know they weren't really expecting. I know some fans are upset how close the game was last week and it came down to a damn near time expiring field goal. But I look at it from point of view, that's a game last year LSU would have lost. And the offense is definitely proven to be explosive. Jaden Daniels is an explosive quarterback. Just need the defense to get there because if they can play complementary football, you guys were something really special, I think, down there in Baton Rouge. But we'll just see what they do, especially the secondary this week.
Yeah, you got to keep seeing some, development in good areas. So keep pointing in the right direction there in Baton Rouge. Moving right along to another SEC matchup. Number 12, Alabama visits Mississippi State. That was a 9:00 kickoff. Alabama gets a big win last week against Ole Miss. They came out and did what they had to do on both sides of the ball to pick that one up. What do you think about Bama versus Mississippi State?
Yeah, big week for Bama last week, especially the defense. Offense still a work in progress. I know Jalen Milroe, the better quarterback of the three, by far it seems like. But
I don't think it's close.
He still seems like he's making he has the boneheaded mistakes he makes and doesn't really like to test the downfield threats. He's really a run first quarterback, it seems. But yeah, they're going against the Mississippi State team who's still trying to find their identity under new coaching, not really running the air raid anymore. But it's Bama -14.5. I'll take them in this game, but I don't think they'll cover. I think Mississippi State will make it ugly, and I think the game will be pretty much over in the fourth quarter. But I think Mississippi State will make a little bit of a run there to cover.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit of a backdoor cover situation, maybe a field goal late
Yeah.
or a garbage time touchdown or something like that. This could be. I mean, I see this game as very well being like a 28-24 kind of game, or 28-21 or something. Um, I'm not sold on Alabama's offense, and like you said, Milroe seems to be the best quarterback out of the three. But when you're looking at the three as a whole, and you kind of stand back and look at that room as a whole, it's not very good. At least not to what Alabama's had in the past, anyways, at that position. Especially when you look at the last three that have come out of there. So tough time for Alabama right now. Still trying to figure it out, and I say tough time, and they're still ranked in the top 15 and comfortably at number 12. So gives you an idea of how well things have gone in Tuscaloosa the last 20 years. But yeah, I think Alabama wins this one, finds a way to win it, and moves on to the next week. So we'll move up the list here. Another team that we skipped a while ago. Number 11, Notre Dame visits number 17, Duke. Notre Dame obviously coming in off that tough loss to Ohio State last week at home. They visit a Duke team, and that has shown that they're ready to play some ball. And Notre Dame coming off of a big loss like that, you look to see more from that offense. Sam Hartman, didn't look great against that elite Ohio State defense. Didn't really have anywhere to throw the ball downfield. Denzel Burke and company did a good job on their receivers for the most part. He kind of makes his living in that short 10 to 15 yards right in the middle of the field sort of thing. So we'll see what Duke's defense has for the Irish. But what do you think about the Fighting Irish versus the Blue Devils?
Yeah, like you said, really disappointing loss for Notre Dame last week, especially since the side that Ohio State ran to, where they were missing that defensive end. So definitely a brain fart for Marcus Freeman on that. Probably wouldn't have mattered anyway. But yeah, Sam Hartman really he had a few moments last week, but overall really struggled against that Ohio State defense. And Duke took care of business last week against UConn. Duke's defense playing really well this year. The offense playing well too. This is a tough one, man. It's Notre Dame -5.5. It's in Durham. Yeah, it's a tough one because you really part of me wants to think Notre Dame will bounce back from last week. Sam Hartman will come out firing, but at the same time, like Duke's at home. I know it's not a terrifying place to play football in Durham, but yeah, I'll take Duke in this one. I think they'll be fired up. I know Notre Dame will be fired up too to bounce back out of last week, but Duke being at home, I'll take them.
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. And, this is, I think, a true assessment of what I saw last week. I saw a Notre Dame team that has a pretty damn good defense. They had a lot more athletes, and they were a lot more athletic as a whole on that side of the ball than I expected them to be. I can't remember for the life of me the name of the corner that covered Marvin Harrison Jr. the majority of that game.
Yeah,
Number 20, I think it was. Yeah, very
Ben
good.
Something.
Very handsy. He likes to grab a lot. He was pulling on Marv's jersey the whole game, which, can't really blame him in that situation. But, Notre Dame's defense as a whole, their defensive line is good. Their linebackers are good, and they play pretty sound football back there. But their offense, man, you saw the numbers and the way that Audric Estime was playing going into last week, and it kind of, reared its ugly head for Notre Dame in some respect with the competition that they played early on in the season. And, Ohio State has an elite defensive front, and Audric Estime and the rest of the running backs, really struggled. I know Audric had a couple runs that he broke off in the second half, but as a whole, their offense really did struggle against Ohio State. And you wonder, if Sam Hartman is, really a Heisman type of player in this season at Notre Dame, or if he was kind of overinflated based on those games. But we'll see. I mean, Notre Dame's got another week, another really tough matchup facing them this week at Duke. I expect that place to be packed for that one. As you mentioned, a raucous crowd in Durham. Notre Dame fans travel well, but they already have come to the that triangle area once this season. So we'll see if they make the trip again. But I agree. I think Duke can get them, man. I just don't, I'm not sold on Notre Dame's offense against, a top defense. And, they showed to really struggle last week. So I will pick Duke in a very long winded fashion. But yeah, I think Duke is primed to beat Notre Dame and make a bit of a statement that Duke is for real in the ACC. So we'll see how
High
that
Street
game goes.
Sports upset of the week.
High Street Sports upset of the week. Number 17 Duke will beat Notre Dame at home. So that's a 7:30 game on ABC. Should be an exciting one. Moving on up the list, number nine, Oregon at Stanford. Oregon did exactly what we thought they were going to do on this show, as we talked about last week. Really, just as Prime said, just an old-fashioned butt whooping, and that's exactly what happened. Oregon visits Stanford. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, you said it all. I mean, Prime said it all. Oregon definitely came out last week, and like we talked about the week before, punched Colorado right in the mouth. They never looked back. Both sides look really good, especially the offense. Bo Nix in his 18th year in college looks really good so far, man. He's getting that ball out quick. I think I saw a stat where like it's not even like anything that much to do with Oregon's offensive line. It feels like he's just getting the ball out so quick that like the pressure percentage is like damn near zero. But yeah. Well, they look really good. It's minus 27 Ducks this week. I'll take them in that and to cover against a really bad Stanford team.
Yeah, I take Oregon, the points, all of it. Quack, quack, man. Eugene has something to be proud about, man. That's a good football team over there in Oregon.
You skipped their rival, though.
Oregon State?
Yeah.
I'm getting to that. It's at the top of my – oh, well, Utah, number 10. I did miss them. Anyways, Ducks big in that one. Quack, quack. Number 10, Utah at number 19, Oregon State in another ranked matchup in the Pac-12. And once again, the Pac-12, continues to be the deepest conference in college football at the moment in their last hoorah. Number 10, Utah at Oregon State. What do you think about that one in a 9 o'clock kickoff?
Oh, yeah, I think this game's on Friday too, correct?
It is. Yep.
Yeah. That sucks for a ranked matchup, but
yeah.
Utah got the win last week. Looking back, they played UCLA, so they played a ranked game last week and beat UCLA. I think it was like 14-. I don't think UCLA scored off the top of my head. I think they may have.
I don't know. I don't think so.
But yeah, I mean, Utah only scored 14, and their defense has been their calling card all year long, especially with Cam Rising still out. I haven't seen whether or not he's back this week. And Oregon State, coming off a tough loss, had to go to Washington State, beat the upstart Cougars there. And Cam Ward, man, they don't play this week, but get a plug for him in the quarterback for Washington State. He's real. Just another great quarterback in the Pac-12. But yeah, tough loss for the Beavs last week, especially defense is kind of their strong suit. I know DJ Uiagalelei looks really good so far this year, but they're definitely a really stout defensive team. But yeah, it's Beavs -3 in this one. I'll take the Beavs in that, whether or not Cam Rising plays. I think they'll be fired up, looking to bounce back from last week's loss and being at home too. I think they'll get the dub in Cornwallis, Oregon.
Yeah, I like what I've.
Excuse me.
Did you say Cornwallis?
Yeah. Classic
Close.
slip of the tongue. Yeah.
Yeah. Close. Freudian slip.
I could have said Eugene.
You could have, but that would have been even more wrong and slightly disrespectful to the Beavers fans that watch this show. So bite your tongue. Number 10, Utah at Oregon State. Like you said, not really sure on the status of Cam Rising in Utah, but Utah, that's a good team, and but I don't know if they have enough to go on the road in a night game and play a good defense there in Corvallis. But we'll see about that. You said Beavs -3?
Yeah. It says Cam Rising right here. It says he's been cleared to play.
Cleared to play.
Yep.
That changes a little bit, but who knows if he'll be ready to go this week.
That's a tough first game to play too.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I'll go with you on that. Oregon State, DJ Uiagalelei gets a big win against a top 10 team at home, and that could be another stepping stone in what could be a pretty magical season for the Pac-12 in its last run. with all these ranked matchups in the last couple weeks. So big one for Oregon State, big one for Utah. A lot on the line there. Big implications on the Pac-12 standings. But we'll take Oregon State in that one. Moving on up, number 8 USC at Colorado. It doesn't stop for Colorado. I saw on Twitter a while ago that Travis Hunter texted Coach Prime and said, I have to play this week, and I'm not going to take no for an answer. So we'll see how that goes. Prime, in the video that went with that tweet, said that he will not play. He cares more about the kid than he does, the game, which is, on brand for Coach Prime. He looks out for his players. But we'll see if Travis Hunter makes his way into that game or not. I don't think it matters either way. I think this could be another instance of, what happened last week in Eugene. However, the thing that Colorado has working for them that they didn't last week is that that's a pretty suspect defense for USC. So they might be able to move the ball, might be able to put some points up, but it should be a hell of a matchup with the quarterbacks here. What do you like about USC versus Colorado?
Yes, Trojans minus 21.5. They struggled a little bit last week against Arizona State. I think they were comfortably ahead pretty much the whole game, but they only won by 2 touchdowns. Just going back to the concerns everybody had with them beginning of the year. We know about Caleb Williams. We know what he's going to do, but the defense is just suspect, and that's pretty on brand for a Lincoln Riley coach team to this point. But yeah, Colorado, we already talked about it. They got punched in the mouth last week. Only scored 6 points. They're back at home this week. There'll be a fired up crowd, especially for another big time opponent, even though they'll have to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning to start getting in, with that game being at noon Eastern. But regardless, I'll take USC in this one. However, though, I think Colorado will score more than 6 points, and I think they will cover the 21.5. But the defense just can't stop anyone. That's just all it comes down to right now. The defense can't keep up with the offense, and really, Travis Hunter makes a difference, but the defense just has to get better. And it probably won't be this year. Prime's going to have to keep building that, but that's just their Achilles heel this year, and it's unfortunate because they're really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think Colorado's on the way to building something special. Dion, like I said, he cares about his players. People want to play for him. You saw the way Travis Hunter followed him to Jackson State and then to Colorado as well. So there's definitely a reason why players want to go play for him, and it'll take a couple of years. And he's probably going to make his living early on in the portal. But he'll recruit and he'll build a winner. But unfortunately, it's just not this season. I will also take USC in that one, but I think Colorado covers, just like you said. You took the words right out of my mouth. I think they'll be able to move the ball against a very suspect defense for USC. So I'll take USC, but also take Colorado to cover in that one. Moving up the list, the most
another Pac-12 game.
The most electric team in college football right now. Michael Penix Jr. and the number 7 Washington Huskies travel to Arizona in a 10 o'clock Pac-12 after dark game. I think Kirk Herbstreit has the Washington Huskies as his number 1 team in the country so far. And I think there's a strong case to be made for them. They've been probably the most consistent team on offense all year. They've got, as we've mentioned before, scary weapons at receiver and a quarterback who's playing at a Heisman level. I think, I'm going to go ahead and say that I don't think Arizona gives them much of an issue here. I'll let you tell the line and stuff like that, but I got the Huskies big in this one.
Yes, Huskies minus 18 at Arizona. It's a road game against a 3-1 team. I don't think it'll matter though. I think they're going to win. They're going to cover. Michael Penix Jr., he's up to 15 or 16 touchdowns now to 1 interception, 1,600 yards. The receivers they have at least 200-yard receivers every week. The defense is doing its job too. They've got some studs back there, and if that can keep growing, it's just really scary to think about what this team can do if the offense keeps doing what it's doing. But yeah, Huskies keep it rolling, man. They're fun to watch, and they're one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, and I think it is not outside the realm of possibility if things keep going the way they are for Washington to break through and bust into the college football playoff. That is it's one of the more exciting teams to watch. And
especially if they run the table in this conference.
Right. And they're going to end up with a few ranked wins, a Pac-12 championship, if all that goes right. So that could be a team that really can shake things up when you get towards, selection. It's Selection Sunday. Yeah, it's on a Sunday. Selection Sunday. So that's, a long way out yet. But Washington looks really good. So moving on up, number 6 Penn State at Northwestern, noon game on the Big Ten Network. Penn State looks good. They continue to look good on offense. What do you think about the Nittany Lions versus Northwestern?
Yeah, it's Penn State minus 27. Northwestern's giving me no indication that won't be the case. Penn State looked good last week. They shut out Iowa. We know Iowa's problems on offense, but Penn State's you mentioned their offense, man. It's the defense that's getting it done this year. They have a really, really good defense with playmakers everywhere. The offense keeps playing well, keeps getting better. So, yeah, I think the Nittany Lions keep it rolling this week.
Yeah, I'll pick Penn State big in that one. Northwestern, obviously, the writings on the walls with what they're dealing with there. So Penn State big in that one. Don't really think it's going to be much of an issue there. Moving on up, number 3 Texas versus number 24 Kansas. This is a big game for Texas, and like I mentioned earlier, Kansas makes their way into the top 25 for the first time. Not really much room for error for Quinn Ewers in Texas, and nothing to lose for Kansas. What do you think about the Longhorns versus the Jayhawks?
Yeah, the Horns took care of Baylor last week on the road in Waco pretty handily. Kansas comes in, man. They got a really good quarterback in Jalen Daniels. Looked really good last week, and they actually beat Texas in overtime. I think it was 57-56 last year in Lawrence. But it's Texas minus 16.5. I think Texas wins that in the cup. They cover being at home in Austin. It'll be scrappy. I think the first half, but I think Texas pulls away in the second half.
Yeah, I just think
crazy. Texas. I don't think in my lifetime, in both of our lifetimes, Kansas has ever been ranked back-to-back years.
No, I cannot think of one year that it has happened.
In basketball, sure.
Oh yeah, basketball. There, yeah. But sick uniforms out of Kansas. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But uniforms aren't going to help you win a football game. I think Texas has way too much on offense for Kansas, so I think Texas wins this one. 2 or 3 score game there in Texas. So Texas moves on. Number 2, Michigan at Nebraska. Nebraska stinks. Michigan has looked mediocre. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, it's Michigan minus 17. I'll take them to cover that. Nebraska's got a good defense. They do not have a good offense, so that defense won't mean anything, especially going to Michigan. As much as they've struggled on offense, they have looked very, very good on defense. They're definitely relying a lot on the run game right now. J.J. McCarthy hasn't looked like what everybody thought he would. He's looked kind of mediocre so far. But, yeah, I'll take Michigan in this one. Take them to cover,
I'll take Michigan as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't cover, however, just because of what you said. J.J. McCarthy looks pretty bad right now against teams that they should be blowing out. They do have the number 1 scoring defense in the country. I think 5.4 points per game or something like that. Ohio State is close at second with, I think it was 5.4 yards or 5.4 points per game. So a very good defense there in Michigan. A little bit of a struggling offense. They like to make the excuse that, wait until we get Harbaugh back, whatever. But yeah, I think Michigan. Yeah, he's back. So I think Michigan wins this one. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska covered there. So moving on up, number 1 Georgia at Auburn. Auburn does not look very good. In Georgia, not really much to go off there. They've kind of struggled on offense the last couple of weeks. What do you think about Georgia versus Auburn?
Yeah, it's Bulldogs minus 14.5. Auburn, they are 3-1. They have a new coach in Hugh Freeze. Jordan Hare is a very hard place to play, probably one of the hardest places to play in the SEC. People don't talk about that enough. But yeah, I just think Georgia's defense will be too much for Auburn's offense, and Georgia's offense will do what it's supposed to do just enough to win. But yeah, I'll take the Dogs in this one, take them to cover.
Yeah, I'll take the Dogs and take them to cover in that one as well. Georgia's got a lot to play for this season. They're proving a lot to themselves, I think, more than anything. A lot of talk about that schedule, a lot of talk about what the new quarterback is doing and stuff like that. So Georgia gets a win on the road in the SEC, and tries to quiet some of that talk. So that is your AP top 25 schedule this week. A couple bye weeks in there, I think, for the number 5 and 4 team. Ohio State move up to number 4 in the poll. They are off this week before next week against Maryland. So a lot of ranked matchups again to look forward to. A lot of good football on this week. So we'll keep that train rolling and flip to the NFL side of things. A lot of surprising outcomes, I think, in the NFL last week. And I think the biggest one was the Cowboys losing to the Cardinals. And that's a tough one if you're a Cowboys fan. So, but music to the ears of the rest of the NFL fan base. So we'll move on here into this week's NFL matchups, and I will let you go ahead and do your thing.
All right. Yeah. First up, well, last week we'll talk about the records. Went 10-6 last week, up to 28-20 on the season. So solid record so far. Do you know what you went last week?
I don't know what I went last week, but I am 22 and 21. Here we are.
Nice. And then first up tomorrow night, we got NFC North matchup: Lions at Packers. It's Detroit -1.5. Detroit got the win last week against Atlanta, 20-6. Packers came back from. Oh, excuse me. Wait, no, yeah, they played Atlanta, and Packers came back from being down 17-0 against the Saints at home to get the win, 18-17. This is definitely a rivalry game. These two teams don't like each other. Two fan bases don't like each other. Being in Lambeau, I will take the Packers in this one. I think Jordan Love will play well, and I think it'll be a back-and-forth game all game, but I think the Packers win by a field goal.
I like the resiliency that I'm seeing out of the Packers, man. And I think there's a lot to be said about Matt LaFleur as a head coach. And I think the players love playing for him. Jordan Love and, he and Jordan Love seem to have a pretty good relationship. And I think, this is probably the best start that you could have imagined for the Packers coming out of the Aaron Rodgers era. And like I said, Jordan Love continues to look good. Being that this game is in Lambeau, I like the Packers in that one too, so I'll pick the Packers.
Yeah. And next up, we got Falcons versus Jaguars. Early Sunday morning game in London. Both teams coming off losses last week. Falcons lost, like we talked about, to Detroit. And then Jacksonville had a really bad loss at home to Houston Texans. Jacksonville -3 in this one. I'll take them in that. I think they could end up winning by a field goal. Definitely, I know Jaguars fans are probably really hoping to see Trevor Lawrence get it going. The defense hasn't played that well yet either. They definitely got some playmakers over there. But, yeah, Falcons, they're going to lean on their run game and defense. Like we talked about, Desmond Ridder is going to manage the game, try not to turn the ball over. But I'll take Jacksonville in this one.
Yeah, Jacksonville is, playing their home game in London. I think, it's a one-dimensional team in Atlanta, and that is proving to really, really bite them in the butt. And Bijan is good, and I can't remember their other running backs.
Tyler Algier.
Yeah, he's good too, but you got to have a passing game to go along with that run game, and the Falcons just don't have it. So I'll pick the Jags to bounce back from an ugly loss last week. So yeah, Jacksonville wins that one.
Next up, we got a battle for teams trying to get their first win. Minnesota at Carolina. Minnesota -4. Minnesota coming off a tough loss last week against the Chargers. Turnover on downs to end the game. They lost 28-24. The offense keeps playing well. The defense just can't stop anybody. Justin Jefferson keeps doing what he does. and Kirk Cousins playing well, having a good season. But like we said, the defense just isn't stopping anybody. Kind of the opposite on the other side, the Panthers, the defense is doing its job. They're dealing with a lot of injuries right now, unfortunately, on both sides of the ball. I think between both units last week, early in the game, they were down 9 starters, which isn't a recipe for success, Bryce Young being one of them. But yeah, it's just kind of same scenario every game this year. The defense has played really well for 3 quarters and then is just gassed by the 4th quarter and can't keep up. Andy Dalton played well last week in relief. He threw the ball 58 times. Some people hear that and like, wow, they must really trust him. I hear that and think, wow, we can't run the ball, which is exactly the case. Miles Sanders, he's not playing well. I'd like to see Chuba Hubbard get more playing time. The holes are there. The offensive line is making them holes. They're just not hitting them and not capitalizing on anything. Offensive line, as far as pass protection, they've allowed 60 pressures in 3 games. That's not good, especially for a rookie quarterback who Bryce did practice today, so he'll probably be back this week. But yeah, not really fun times in Pantherland right now, but just hoping to see Bryce to continue to develop and see where we go from there. But yeah, I'll take Minnesota in this one. I think Justin Jefferson's going to have a field day with that secondary, especially with J.C. Horn out.
Yeah, it's 2 teams that are really struggling. Panthers, as you mentioned, have a lot of injuries and they're dealing with a lot of things over there. But on the other side, you're looking at a team who I think the loss of Adam Thielen is really, really it's a much more of a bigger deal than I think a lot of people were making it out to be, especially when you think about from the aspect of how much of a leader Adam was in that locker room in Minnesota. So I think they're going through some things in Minnesota, but I think they do get their first win this week against the Panthers team just decimated by injury. So like you said, hopefully Bryce can play this week and continue to get the reps and see NFL defenses and continue to get that experience. And hopefully he gets his first win this week, but I don't think it happens.
And next up, probably the game of the week, Miami at Buffalo, AFC East matchup. Buffalo -2.5. Buffalo coming off a really big win at Washington last week, 37-3, picked off Sam Howell 4 times. They pretty much won on the back of the defense last week. Josh Allen did pretty well. But yeah, the defense just showed out last week. And the Dolphins, I think everybody knows what they did to Denver last week, 70-20.
God.
I was driving back to Tennessee and kind of got in standstill traffic and was just checking the scores, and I had to wipe my eyes to make sure I was seeing that score correctly. And it was still halfway through the 4th quarter too, mind you. Yeah, Dolphins are rolling, man. Tua is playing out of his mind. That one little no-look flip he had to A-Chain for that touchdown. And they didn't even have Jalen Waddle last week either. So when they get him back, that's just another dimension of them. Mike McDaniel is an evil genius with that offense. Tyreek Hill playing out of his mind. Really, really capitalizing on his football career. I don't know if you heard him on his podcast. He was either
I did not
today. He was, I don't know if it's his podcast, but he was streaming or something and someone asked him what he wants to do after football, and he wants to be a porn star, apparently.
Okay.
Dead serious. So
well, do your thing.
Yeah. But yeah, in the meantime, he's burning defenses and Tua's hitting him with the long ball. So until then, he's being a star receiver. But yeah, this is a tough one, man. The Bills defense is playing really well. They're in Buffalo. I don't know if you call this an upset, but I will go with the Dolphins. I think the offense is just too much right now, especially if they get Waddle back, and the defense is playing well too. I know they played a bad Denver team last week, but the defense is playing solid. And when they get Jalen Ramsey back too, Dolphins are real, man. They're really, really good. And Tua's, I'm sure to everyone's delight after last year's struggle with concussions, head injuries, that he's really showing that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But yeah, I'll take Miami.
Yeah, the Dolphins are doing a really good job, on both sides of the ball. They've got a really good defense, and they're showing that they can run and throw the football at a very high level. You mentioned the just explosion of points that they scored last week and the way that they did it. 200 yards on the ground, 200 yards plus on the ground, and, a whole bunch more in the air. And, they're just – that's a high-powered offense down there in Miami. And as you said, Mike McDaniel is a pretty genius offensive mind. So I think, the Bills are starting to look like the team that everybody thought they were going to look like going into the season. And they completely blew up my upset pick of the week last week. So yeah, I think this could be this might be a who has the ball last sort of game, depending on
it won't be
how the
70-20.
God, no. Depending on how the Bills defense comes out and, fares against the rushing attack and the passing attack, we'll see what happens. It could get out of hand pretty quickly with the way that, Miami can move that ball. But I think Miami wins this one in about I'd say a 10-point game, but I think the last touchdown happens pretty late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, their rookie back, Devin Achane, had 60 fantasy points last week.
Unbelievable. I looked at that game. I mean, you don't even see 70 points scored in college that much. And to see that scored in the NFL.
Outside of week one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was nuts.
Picked up Achane in fantasy, though. So
that'll
probably a healthy scratch this week with my luck. But that's neither here nor there. So going from probably the game of the week to the toilet bowl of the week, the Broncos at the Bears. I saw a tweet, and I wish I could retweet it 1,000 times. Like, this game needs to be flexed to 3 a.m. yesterday.
Yeah, I saw
that. This is just a game between Vikings, Panthers is 0-3 teams, but it seems worse for both of these teams. Like, Broncos look really bad, man. Russ is cooked. That's all I'm going to say.
He's awful.
And you think if he keeps going like this, like Sean Payton might just bench him and tank so he can get his quarterback next year, because there's definitely a nice selection in next year's draft. The Bears, on the other hand, bad all the way around. Justin Fields is struggling. His receivers are struggling. Offensive line, any position in football wearing a Bears uniform is struggling. Coaches are struggling. It's just bad in Chicago. I will say this to Bears fans, though. The one silver lining you have is you could be awful this year, and the Panthers will likely give you another top 5 pick. So the Bears could end up next year with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr.
Which
that's a pretty good consolation prize.
It's not bad.
So yeah, I hate it for Justin Fields, man. I've always been high on him. It really seems like he needs a fresh start somewhere, hopefully, to get going. But not saying he's not at fault either. He is playing pretty bad. But bright spot for the Bears. Shout out to DJ Moore, former Carolina Panthers receiver. Justin took a shot to the head last week, and DJ could kind of tell that he didn't look right and pushed him to the sideline, got him out of there. So yeah, stick taps for DJ Moore being a good teammate. But yeah, I really don't know where to go with this one as far as the game. It's Denver minus 3.5. It's in Chicago. I'm going to go tie.
You son of a bitch. I was going to do that too. You suck. Yeah, like you said, man, there's nothing good out of that football team in Chicago. And Justin Fields being one of those nothing goods on that team. I mean, he's not played well. And I think you're right. I think they do need to part ways with Justin and get him to a team that might try to protect him a little bit more than the Bears have made an effort to. You mentioned, I think we mentioned in the preview too, about how the Bears went out and, they got some receivers, DJ Moore, and they got some, tried to put some weapons around him. But I mean, that offensive line is just atrocious. And I mean, there's nothing good on either side of the ball there. And then, you look to the other side in the Broncos, who just got absolutely mollywopped by the aforementioned Dolphins. I mean, there is not a good piece of film on either side of this field whatsoever. And I think
last week's game film against the Dolphins, Sean Payton probably drove up to the peak of the Rocky Mountains and buried it up there.
If you don't bury it as deep as you can bury it and then blow it up and then put some more dirt on top of it, then I don't know what else you can do other than find a volcano and drop it in it. But yeah, just horrible football on both sides of the field there. Um, I was really excited to make my tie pick in that one.
Well,
I don't
just to contribute, since we got to contribute to our records, I'll make a pick. I'll pick Denver.
Is Justin in the concussion protocol?
I don't think so. I think he's going to play.
Okay.
I can look really quick. Well, if I search his name, it's just going to be people roasting him. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Take it easy on my man's. But
I'll take Denver.
I don't know, man. I don't have a coin anywhere over here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Denver, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
That game sucks. It's just absolutely awful.
Yeah. I'd pay someone money not to go to that.
Yeah, I would take tickets off of somebody's hands and just shred them.
Yeah. I don't know what Russ is cooking nowadays, but it ain't edible. I ain't eating
shit. A big bowl of shit.
I ain't eating it.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. But
get me away from this game. Move on. Jesus.
Moving on from the turd of the week, we'll go to AFC North matchup, big game, Ravens at Brownies. Cleveland coming off an absolute mollywhopping of the Titans. Defense is as good as advertised, especially in that game. They shut down Derrick Henry, made life miserable for Ryan Tannehill. Offense looked pretty good. Deshaun looked all right. I know we keep talking about it. People are waiting for him to kind of break out. And but, I mean, they keep winning. Doesn't really matter, I guess. And then the Ravens coming off a really, really tough loss at home, too, against the Colts and of the backup quarterback, even though Gardner Minshew is a solid quarterback, but lost by a field goal in overtime. I didn't realize the Ravens are – if the Panthers are decimated by injuries, I don't know what to say about the Ravens.
Yeah, it's not been good.
Like Marlon Humphrey's hurt, Odell's hurt, a few offensive linemen are hurt. But, yeah, I mean, but next man up. But in this one, it's Cleveland -3. I'm not sure who the Ravens are getting back from injury this week, but I'll take Cleveland in that one. I'll take them to cover. I think the defense will make life really hard for Lamar, and I think they'll win by 10 points, Cleveland.
Yeah, I like that number a lot. My thought about that was, around 7 or 10 in that one. I really like what I see out of Cleveland, man. And, just like you've mentioned, the Cleveland fans are waiting for Deshaun to kind of show that elite form that he, showed in Houston. But the story of this team is exactly what you said, and it's the defense. I mean, you got a defensive line with Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett on either side. You've got, defensive backs all over the field that will come up and make a hit. Denzel Ward made another, just a boom on one of those poor Tennessee receivers last week. So Denzel Ward
he can cover in man, and he hits like a safety.
Yeah, he is exactly as advertised. Gus Johnson, had maybe the call of the decade a couple of years ago when Denzel Ward hit a poor guy from Maryland and got ejected for the worst targeting call I've ever seen in my life. But the story of that play was Gus Johnson saying, "Denzel Ward, you got barbecue back there and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings." That man can lay the boom, and he's not scared of it. And Grant Delpit's healthy. Greg Newsome is playing well. So there's a lot to be excited for on the defensive side of the ball for Cleveland. And then you look on the offensive side of the ball. Amari Cooper has played really well this year. Eli Moore is already, showing to be a huge pickup for the Browns. And then you add, with the unfortunate loss of Nick Chubb, you go out and you get Kareem Hunt back. He played a little bit last week. I think he had 5 carries, 13 yards or something like that.
Start using him more.
Yeah, so you got to think that they're going to see, him get ramped up. Yeah, me too. You'll start to see more Kareem Hunt in the offense. And I think you do see that this week. And I think Kareem Hunt might, come out and have a big game against a divisional opponent, a rival. Browns don't like the Ravens and the Ravens don't like the Browns. So that should be a fun one. Injured Ravens team, but I think Cleveland wins that game by 7 and continues to a hot start. And building some hope for them Cleveland fans, man. The dog pound is desperate for a winner, and hopefully Kevin Stefanski and that bunch can push that team back to the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And moving on next, we got Steelers at Texans. Steelers coming off the win in primetime last week against the Raiders. Defense really showed out in that one. Offense did all right. Kenny Pickett looked all right. And then Texans, really, really big win for them going on the road at Jacksonville. C.J. Stroud continued to look really, really good, especially being down 4 starting offensive linemen. They're definitely and Tank Dell, his receiver, looked really, really well. A 3rd or 4th round pick. But yeah, tough one right here. I'm not really this definitely will be the toughest defense CJ's played so far.
By far.
Yeah. But I'll go with the Steelers in this one just because I think the defense is going to throw in some stuff he's probably never seen before. And you got Minka Fitzpatrick back there. You got TJ Watt. Like, I I think he will continue to play well, but I do think the Steelers win an ugly one in this one.
Yeah, I just, as you mentioned, with the down 4 offensive linemen in Houston, I don't think that is anything good when you're going against the best defensive player in football in TJ Watt. So I don't love that for CJ. CJ's probably going to, be on the move a lot this game, more so than he would want to. But as you mentioned, man, he pulled off a big win last week in his first win. Had really good numbers. I think 280 passing yards. And he, continues to not turn the ball over. And, that's really all you can ask out of a rookie quarterback. So, I think CJ has another, pretty good game. But I think just that defense in Pittsburgh is really good. And TJ Watt is really good. So TJ might be a frequent flyer in the backfield and be in CJ's face a lot. So I think the Steelers do pull that one off.
Yeah, the reason I think that too is I know CJ's at his best when he gets to stand in the pocket and deliver. Once you get him on the move, he kind of struggles a little bit. I just think Mike Tomlin's going to throw things at him he's never seen before.
Absolutely.
Yep. Moving on to next game, Rams at Colts. No line in this one. It's even, which is kind of surprising to me. Colts got a really big win last week by field goal in overtime, like we talked about against the Ravens. I think Anthony Richardson did practice today, so he's training to be back this week. Rams coming off a really ugly loss on Monday night to the Bengals. That game for a while seemed like who wants to lose this game. Matt Stafford really struggled. The defense outside of Aaron Donald, doesn't seem like they really have anybody else who's stepping up. But I mean, it's kind of another. There's a lot of tough ones this week.
Yeah.
This one, I'll ride with the Colts being at home. I think they're playing motivated football. Shane Steichen's a really good coach, and Anthony Richardson. Hopefully he's back this week, and hopefully he doesn't take any more hits. I think he's had to come out of every game he's played in so far this year. But like I said, I know you're 6'5", 250 pounds, but pull it back sometimes, man. You got drafted 4th. You got to help your team out. You got to protect yourself. But yeah, I'll take the Colts in this one.
Yeah, I'll take the Colts as well. LA, sold the farm when they won that Super Bowl, and you could really tell. Yeah, well, yeah, but you're really showing I would 100%. But you're seeing the effects of that with the way they had to break down that roster and some of the turnover they had. And as you mentioned, Aaron Donald looks like the only threat that the Rams have on defense. So this Colts team is proving to be a little exciting, and without Jonathan Taylor, which that situation continues to play out the way that it is, which is a very strange situation. I think there was a development that came out today that said that he is not backing down from his stance, and he still wants to be traded. So interesting stuff there. Yeah. There's a lot of teams in the league that could use him.
We can trade we can trade our first round picks in 2030 for him.
Something tells me Irsay is not going to be willing to go for that. But yeah, I think the Colts win this one. The Rams stink. Aaron Donald said he's addicted to confetti. I hope he got his fill in that Super Bowl because it ain't happening.
He's going through withdrawals, and he's going to keep going through withdrawals.
Yeah.
Next game, NFC South matchup, Bucks at Saints. Buccaneers coming off a really tough loss at home against the defending NFC champs Eagles. Baker really struggled. They definitely made life uncomfortable for him. You kind of saw a little bit back to earth for Baker, and the defense didn't look too good either. Against the Saints, who dropped a really bad loss, being up 17-0 at the Packers. I think they were up 17-0 at halftime too. But yeah, this one's New Orleans -3. Superdome's a tough place to play. I think Derek Carr, I think he sprained his AC joint is what the injury was, so he probably won't play this week. So Jameis Winston will probably be in. Taysom Hill will get his gadget plays too. But this is a tough one too. God, I feel like I've said that every other game. New Orleans, I know they're down Derek Carr. That's a tough place to play, though. I say that I've never been there, but just playing them twice a year, I know how hard it is to play there. I think the Saints defense will step up in that one and get a win at home. If you're Jameis Winston, though, throw to number 12, Chris Olave. That dude's really good, man. He's playing really, really well. Looks like the next – I'm sure you love hearing that. Just next great receiver out of Ohio State. He's playing really well so far this year. Catches everything that's thrown his way.
He's a cool character, man. Nothing rattles him. He makes big catch after big catch. Had another one-handed catch this week, by the pylon. Incredible athlete, burner, good route runner. But yeah, I don't think that being without Derek Carr is going to hurt them as much as people would think. Jameis is a serviceable quarterback in the NFL. He might throw to the other team a lot, but he can sling it. And they've got the receivers and some running backs that can go out there and make a play. So I look for the Saints to go out there and eat that W in Jameis's return. Yeah, that's right. That happened.
No comment. Next up, NFC East matchup: Commanders at Eagles. Commanders coming off an absolute beatdown at the hands of
a trouncing, if you will.
Yeah, a bludgeoning. How about?
Yeah.
And then High Street Sports words of the week. But yeah, Commanders lost 37-3 at home against the Bills. Sam Howell threw 4 interceptions. Hopefully he can keep improving. I know it was a tough game for him. Hopefully he can build on that and keep it rolling. He does have a lot of weapons at receiver and running back too. They've got solid backs, but Philly -8 in this one. The champs don't look like they're stopping. They don't even look like the NFC champs. They don't even look like they're at their best yet, to be honest. The defense, the half of the Philadelphia Bulldogs, they look really, really good. Jalen Carter looks like an absolute steal. Like, he's getting double teamed already almost every play he's out there. Jalen Hurts keeps playing well. Receivers keep playing well. Running backs are by committee. They're playing well. Eagles, big in this one.
Yeah, I've got the Birds big as well. I picked the Commanders last week in my upset pick of the week, and they absolutely blew it. Sam Howell looked like garbage. Tough game for Sam, but, hopefully you take a game like that and you're able to turn that around, learn from it, really hit that film hard, and then potentially never look at it again. But, yeah, I think just the Eagles have not hit their stride quite yet. But that being said, they still find ways to win games. It's a good football team up in Philly. So, yeah, Birds big in that one.
Next up, we got Bengals at Titans. Cincinnati -2.5. Like we talked about earlier, coming off a really ugly win on Monday night against the Rams. It's definitely very well known that Joe Burrow is playing hurt. That calf is still bothering him. Everything just looks like a struggle for them right now. You definitely think that has a lot to do with Joe not being 100%. Mm-hmm. So you really wonder if, they need to just, he's your franchise quarterback, man. You just paid him all that money. I know you have Super Bowl aspirations this year, but you don't want to make it worse than it already is. If he's hurt, I think you need to let him get back to 100% so your team can play to its ability, even though the offensive line is still pretty bad, unfortunately. But Yeah, regardless, going against a Titan, kind of mediocre Titans team, the Tennessee Derrick Henrys, pretty much. They will be at home. I don't know if Joe's still banged up, man. Their Titans do have a pretty solid defense, and I think they could make this one ugly being at home. I'll take the Titans in this one.
Yeah, and you bring up a very, very interesting point about the Bengals and what they should do with Joe Burrow. And you mentioned their Super Bowl aspirations. A lot of people, including myself, were very high on the Bengals going into the season, and it was kind of hard not to be given the way that they've looked the past couple of seasons and who they had on their roster and things like that. But this is a pretty sneaky, important season for the Bengals. You've got Joe, who just got his bag, and you've got two receivers who are looking to get their bag as well, and a lot of uncertainty as far as who's going to be here past this year. So it's a very interesting time for the Bengals, and that's a big decision for them to have to sit back and look at and make with Joe, and concerning his health, whether you want to push the envelope now while you still have the team that you have, or do you want to put him kind of on the shelf and let him get healthy, and who knows where your season could go after that and where you be when he's 100% and ready to play. So that's a tough little crossroads for the Bengals to be at, especially, I don't think anybody in Cincinnati thought that they would be in this position this early in the season, but things happen, and that's kind of the game of football, and you move on. But I think
Another tough one.
Yeah, it is. I don't want to say it again. But it is another tough one. I think the Bengals win this game. I don't like what I saw out of Tennessee. I think the Browns are a good offensive football team and a good defensive football team. So they kind of made a mess of Tennessee last week. But I think the Bengals go into Tennessee and take care of business.
Touching on what Chris said, Bengals fans, enjoy T. Higgins this year while you can, because he's coming home next year to the Carolinas. I'm calling it now. T. Higgins was signed with the Panthers next year in the offseason, and that notification will hit like crack in the 80s. To me, at least.
Wednesday, September 27th at 9:16 p.m. John Ross declares.
Yep. Yeah, moving on. We got a rivalry game out west, Raiders at Chargers. Raiders coming off a loss to the Steelers last week. Chargers coming off their first win against the Vikings. It's LA -5.5. I'll take the Chargers in this one. I take them to cover that. I don't like what I'm seeing out of Las Vegas. They look like just a mess overall. Devontae Adams isn't happy either. I don't know if you saw. He's saying I'm not here to try to build anything. I'm here to win, or I'm not here to be building towards something. I'm here to win now, which I agree with him. I mean, the dude's paid his dues. He deserves to be on a winner. He's one of the best receivers in the league. But yeah, I think the Chargers get the win here. Hopefully, keep building momentum and be what people have been saying they could be over all these years with Justin Herbert back there.
Yeah, I unfortunately, I don't have a lot of faith in that Chargers defense. But then again, like you said, not really a whole lot to be, confident in Las Vegas, which is really unfortunate, given how, good we've seen Jimmy Garoppolo play in the past. So that's kind of, in my eyes anyways, surprising to see kind of how that's going. I think that's a bigger reflection on the defensive side of the ball in Las Vegas. But the offense does not look very good either. So, that's a tough situation in Vegas. And I think, there's a lot of people that are kind of growing weary of, I just had his name and then I lost it. What's their head coach's name?
Oh, Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels. There's high expectation for Josh McDaniels given, his pedigree and where he came from before here. But, it's not seeming to work out quite like how they wanted it to. So I got the Chargers in that one. Keenan Allen, man, looks unbelievable, dude. That dude
threw a touchdown last week.
Yeah, in addition to the receiving yards that he had. So Keenan showed that he can play every position back at Northern Guilford High School here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Shout out the Nighthawks, shout out Keenan Allen. but yeah, man, Keenan's unbelievable. So hopefully the Chargers can build some momentum and they get the win this week against Las Vegas.
And moving on, you got battle of maybe the two most hated teams in America, Patriots and Cowboys. They're not America's team, Cowboys fans. We'll get into it in a little bit, but I can make the case that the team in Kansas City is now America's team.
Oh, we'll get there.
Yeah. Not too much longer. But yeah, back to this one. Dallas -7 coming off a absolute bizarre loss against what people thought would be the worst team in the league this year in the Cardinals. Still very well could be. But yeah, just a bad game from the Cowboys all around. I was surprised the Cardinals were able to move the ball on that defense as well as they were. And like I told you, he's gonna be Dak.
Mm-hmm.
He'll look good for a little bit, and then you just can't trust him, man. He's going to make a mistake. He's going to shoot you in the foot. The Patriots coming off a really ugly win against a depleted Jets team. I say depleted. One man getting hurt seemed to wreck their entire season. We'll get into them in just a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
But Dallas being back in Jerry World, they're -7. I'll take them take them to cover. I think they will throw Mac Jones all over that field on Sunday.
Yeah, I think Dallas's defense is going to be the calling card in this one, just like you said. Yeah, I just don't. If I'm the Cowboys, I don't know if I would have given Dak that money. I don't see what everybody else sees, and you can say whatever you want about him. I think the majority of that success that he had in the first 3-ish years of his NFL career, a lot of that came from the way that Ezekiel Elliott was running the ball, and that offensive line and some of those things. So I don't trust Dak. I don't think Dak is that $40 million, $50 million man or whatever. But I do think they get it done this week.
Next up, team we just talked about getting the big win last week. You got the Cardinals. They get the pleasure of going against another great defense this week in the 49ers. It's -14 San Francisco. I will take them to cover that. San Francisco, in my opinion, right now is the best team in football.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Purdy is playing really well, better than I thought he would play. Offense is lighting it up. Once again, I miss you, Christian McCaffrey. Defense is playing really, really well. Deebo Samuel's starting to come on. If they get George Kittle going, man, that's scary.
Yeah, look out.
Not much to say about this one. I think they bring the Arizona back down to earth this week and punch them in the mouth and blow them out.
Yeah, I like the 49ers as well, and I will echo that sentiment too. I think they are the best team in football. They're the most complete team in football, and they play like it. So I think they do win this one. Bring Arizona back down to earth a little bit. I know their fans were excited about that one last week, and as well they should have. And I saw a video again on Twitter that Josh Dobbs couldn't even go to the pro shop and get his own jersey. So
Poor
Josh
guy.
Dobbs. Josh Dobbs goes from being on the Browns practice squad or backup or whatever he was going to be, and then ends up finding his way and playing in Arizona and playing well. So good for Josh Dobbs in that respect. Big win for the Cardinals last week, but don't expect more of the same this week. Niners big.
And next we have Sunday Night Football against arguably the hottest team in football, not even for football reasons, the Kansas City Chiefs at the New York Jets. We finally made it, Swifties. We're here to talk about it. Let's get into it. Just Chiefs blew out a bad Bears team last week. The offense was lighting it up. Travis Kelce caught a touchdown pass in front of his new lady up there in the stands. What a development, man. We're seeing bridges being built. People being brought into the game of football. What a game. What a league. What are your thoughts? Just initial thoughts.
I have come across a very interesting conspiracy theory on the TikToks from some Swifties. And they think that this whole thing is just nothing but a PR ploy. Nothing but the NFL trying to gain a new demographic or a new following from another group of teenage girls that have never watched football before. And, you know, it's not the most outlandish thing I've ever heard. It would be very smart of the NFL and
Roger
Travis
Goodell's a
Kelce.
sick man.
He
Like,
is.
wouldn't surprise me.
And, you know, if you can, I think Travis Kelce gained 300,000 followers.
I've got some stats for you here.
Statman John Ross came strapped. What do you got?
So since Taylor Swift showed up to Sunday's Chiefs-Bears game, there has been a 400% spike in Kelce jerseys sales. Him and his brother Jason's podcast ranks #1 overall on Apple. Like you said, he added 383,000 Instagram followers. That game had 24.3 million viewers, the #1 game that week. 63% jump in female viewers age demographic 18 to 49. 3 times increase in Chiefs searches on the webs. 3 times increase in Chiefs sales on StubHub. And the Chiefs sold more tickets in a single day since the start of the season.
Wow. All right. So the Taylor Swift bump seems to be very real.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and something people don't talk about, the real MVP is Donna Kelce, Travis's mom.
Mm-hmm.
She could have Taylor Swift is one of the biggest stars in the world. Like, she could have sat with anybody. She could have sat by herself, but she chose to sit with Donna Kelce. Shout out to Donna Kelce. Having a great time up there. But yeah, and yeah, it's definitely nice to see all these people coming into football, except for like some of these Swifties are kind of weird with their conspiracy theories. I saw one that was like the video of Kelce punching, I think it was his past training camp.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on that.
And like them saying like, this is the kind of person you want for her. I'm like, all right, chill out. You don't know either one of them. Calm down. Or like some woman like lining up their horoscopes at astrology things. I'm like, okay, maybe this is the bad demographic that this is bringing in. But hey, overall, I think it's been pretty fun, man. It's cool to see. It's made for a lot of great memes. According to my sources, aka my wife, the outfit that Travis had on when he and Taylor left the arena is like inspired by her upcoming album. So,
okay,
big if true.
Huge if true.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a really cool development, and just this makes the Chiefs, in my opinion, even more America's team. They've got the Swifties behind him now, and like some of them may be weird, but that's a hell of an army to have behind you.
That's big time support for the Chiefs. Big time support for Travis Kelce.
I don't know if you saw it. PFT, pardon my take, Barstool. Shout out PFT. Shout out Barstool. He tweeted, said this could be a really good development because there's going to be one bad call on Kelce in a game, and these Swifties are going to dig up dirt on Roger Goodell that we didn't even know about and just change the game. Like, yeah. Dude, they could like, there could be like a player on the Chiefs who doesn't do well, and they're going to like get into their little analytics and like see who was drafted after that person, see who was drafted around that person the Chiefs should have taken. They're going to be Swifties and GM roles before this is all said and done.
I don't know. This is unbelievable how it's happened that they're going to turn an entire group of people that have never seen the game of football into the biggest super fans on the planet for the next probably 4 months or so. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. But Godspeed to Travis Kelce. If something, I mean, first of all, has it even been confirmed that they're dating?
I don't know. I saw something. I mean, as I understand it, she's a very private person. So I think that's why it was such a big deal that she would just surface like that. So yeah, I'm sure it's pretty much very casual. I'm sure he's signed an NDA. I'm almost 100% positive he has. But listen, I mean, good for them. I mean, if it's just casual, let them have some fun. It's just really cool to see all this come from it. Is pretty cool. I'm kind of invested in it. It's just fun to watch. But yeah,
I don't know if you saw Travis said that on the pod. I think it was from this week's episode. Travis said that the biggest change was looking outside and seeing paparazzi in front of his house.
Yeah,
which I'm sure is just a welcome sight for Trav. But yeah, anyways,
and with how private she is as a person, like, you have to think Jackson Mahomes isn't allowed anywhere near her.
Good God, I hope not.
Like
Oh,
just like that's reason enough to support this. Like she could have said like they could have penned it there and she could have been sitting beside Jackson and Brittany Mahomes, but no, she was sitting beside Donna Kelce, the
well,
real MVP of the Chiefs organization.
well, Taylor just proved that she had good taste by not sitting next to Jackson Mahomes.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
But
did
yeah,
you make your
into
pick yet
the
for this game?
I have not. I haven't even talked about the game yet. The game is secondary to all this, man. But no, we'll get into the game. Chiefs at Jets, and what unfortunately isn't as big of a game as it would have been 3 weeks ago now with Aaron Rodgers being out. Sunday Night Football, we're gonna probably be saying that a lot this year because the Jets are in a lot of primetime games. But yeah, Chiefs minus 9.5. I don't see any reason why they don't cover that. A little bit of a turmoil in the Jets locker room right now. It came out today that a lot of people, especially on the defense, are not happy with Robert Salah's allegiance to Zach Wilson. I don't blame him. The kid isn't good. He made one fan so mad last week. The dude's teeth came out. I don't know if you saw that video.
I did see that, yeah.
So rough times in New York for the Jets fans. So yeah, I think the Kansas City Chiefs Swifties keep it rolling this week.
Yeah, and even more so than the disjointed locker room. You saw last week on the sidelines, a couple receivers just yelling at a coach. I'm not sure who the coach was, if it was just a position coach or if it was the coordinator or not, but a couple instances where it had to be broken up. So not what you like to see.
You got to think maybe they're yelling at him because they can't yell at Zach Wilson.
I mean, listen, there's got to be a lot of animosity in that locker room just based on the way the season's going, where you thought it was going to go out of training camp and coming into the season versus where they're at now and how bad they're struggling. I mean, that can't be an easy situation to be in. But as players and coaches and stuff, now would be the time that they need to rally around each other as opposed to letting all that stuff play out on the sidelines, which it's an unfortunate situation, but the playoffs and the Jets, just that doesn't seem to be a possibility this year after all that's going on. So I think the Kansas City Swifties will get this one done as well, and Travis will drive off into the sunset as in this picture with whatever other
word is she'll be there at MetLife. So if she is, Chiefs by 1 million.
Yeah, Chiefs by 1 million.
Yeah, but there's also one more thing. I'm pretty sure she's from Pennsylvania, and I think she's an Eagles fan. My conspiracy is, what if this is all sabotage for the Chiefs beating them last year in the Super Bowl? Jason Kelce is sabotaging his own brother and his team.
No, that's a big brain.
She has been sent to rip that team apart from the inside out.
It's a big brain move if that is the case. It's a big brain move.
Yeah. I'm not just, I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. So
hey, this is in the end, the NFL has proven to be an entertainment business.
Yeah. That begs the question. I've thought about this a lot. This is getting off topic. People call baseball America's pastime. Do we think football is America's pastime now?
Yes. It's been that way for 20 years or so. I mean, it's football is overtaking baseball.
Baseball's fun to watch. Still love watching it, but yeah, football is definitely America's pastime. Quick baseball plug. Shout out Terry Francona. You see Chris's shirt. Shout out Tito. Fantastic manager, retiring this year.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Tough one for Cleveland sports fans to lose. Terry Francona has been in Cleveland for 11 years. Has only played an incredible stat. This is, in my opinion, only played 26 games. The Guardians / Indians have eliminated from playoff contention under Tito, and there have only been 3 teams with more wins from 2013 to 2023 since Tito's been there than the Indians / Guardians have had, and those are the Yankees, Dodgers, and who am I forgetting? Astros. So incredible job. Tito embodied everything that it was to be, from Cleveland, an Indians / Guardians fan, player, coach. So a massive loss for the city of Cleveland. Massive loss for the Guardians organization. Shout out to you, Tito. Hats off. An incredible career if this is the end. So, yeah, big shout out to Terry Francona.
Shout out Terry Francona. And now for the most flaccid segue into the last game of the week in the history of this podcast. Monday Night Football, Seahawks at Giants. Even line in this one, which I'm a little bit shocked by. Seattle hasn't looked too bad this year. I mean, they went to Detroit, beat a good Lions team, took care of business last week against the Panthers. Giants got their asses handed to them last week like we expected against the 49ers. Par for the course so far for them, I guess. And their only win, they squeaked one out against a bad Cardinals team. I'll take the Seahawks in this one. I think I think their offense will be too much. I think Geno will do enough to get it done. I think Danny Dimes will struggle and continue making people question why they gave him that I thought the dude could be pretty good, but obviously I was wrong.
I think I text you probably midway through the first quarter of that opening game against the Cowboys and said, "Man, Daniel Jones looks kind of good." And,
about the time that delivered, he was fumbling the ball.
Yeah, so I don't know if I need to apologize to him directly, but that seems to be a freezing cold take. But neither here nor there. Yeah, I don't like anything about the Giants. They look pretty bad. Brian Daboll's got a lot to figure out there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see any way that the Giants win this game.
So you're taking the Seahawks?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I need to hear.
Yeah,
that's it for the NFL slate this week. Another exciting week of football. Every week's a good weekend when there's football. So
correct.
No matter how bad the games are, we're here. We're rolling. Episode 14, week 5 in college football, week 4 NFL. Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. What a time. What a sport. What a life.
What a life. It's getting cold outside. The chill is in the air. Leaves are starting to turn colors. It's that time of year, folks. Grab the chili, grab some cornbread. Shout out to Heather Peters. Phenomenal chili and cornbread last week. So yeah, it's football time. Season rolls on. We're in the thick of it in college football and getting to some pretty, tough games to pick in the NFL. So we're here. We're having fun with it.
This pod.
Yeah, tough.
This is a tough one.
Matchup. This is a hard one to pick. But like John Ross said, a lot going on in both sides in college and in the NFL. We hope you enjoyed this. Thank you guys for coming in once again. 40 subscriber mark on YouTube, so that's huge. Thank you guys for that. As I mentioned, our views keep going up. So again, thank you guys for that. A lot to check out on the YouTube. If you want to go back through and look at some of the stuff that we have, a lot of shorts, a lot of videos that we have up there so far, feel free to check us out. Share the podcast if you like it. Share it if you didn't. I don't care if you don't like it, but share it anyways. Like, comment, subscribe. High Street Sports on YouTube. We'll be here all season. We'll be here, moving past football season 2. So get ready for all that extra, NBA, NHL content coming your way soon. But we are in the middle of football season. We're happy to be here. Thank you guys again for stopping in. This is episode 14 of High Street Sports. John Ross, I'll see you next week, buddy.
And we don't know about you, but we're feeling 22. Thanks, guys.